I am on page 118, and we are looking at problems 16 and 17. This is in the exercise book, not the textbook. The potential weekly profits of an older book and a newer book are shown in the graph and table below, where X is the number of weeks the book is on sale, and Y is the total profit for the week in thousands of dollars. So the older book's profit is shown by a parabola. It climbed, it increased up to, it looks like about 8 weeks. And then the interval started to decrease. And then on the table, we're looking at the newer book's profit. And it looks like the same thing happened there, because we started at 0 in the Y column and we ended at 0. So it also would suggest to me that this is quadratic, that it has a parabolic shape. Okay, so let's take a look at the questions. Number 16 says, how much potential weekly profit does the older book make after being on sale for 7 weeks? So this is the older book. We're looking at the graph for this one. And we need to look at that graph at 7 weeks. So it looks like my graph for the x-axis is scaled in 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. And we need week 7. So week 7 is going to be somewhere right in here. Okay. So I like that point right there. At week 7, the profit is 40. And remember, that is 40,000. The dollars are in thousands. So I'm looking for $40,000. And that is option D. And then number 17, which statement makes the best comparison between the old and new book's potential weekly profits? The newer book, that's the table, will make a profit for twice as long as the older book. The older book will start making a profit after the newer book. The newer book will make more of a profit during week 11 than the older book. It will take the newer book longer to reach its maximum potential weekly profit than the older book. The newer book's maximum potential profit is greater than the older book's maximum potential profit. And we're looking for the one that is true, that is the best comparison. So we need to look at, I'm going to go after the maximums because that's mentioned. That would be a good place to start on this one. It mentions the maximum potential, the maximum potential. So let's start there and just see when each of these books reached the maximum potential. So looking at this graph, and I'm going to take away this line now because we're not looking at that. We're looking at the maximum on this graph. So that's going to be right here. I am thinking around 8.5 to 9. In other words, if you put that as a point, I think it's about 8.5 weeks. You reach that maximum potential of about 42, maybe. I don't know. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it is the maximum. In other words, these book sales in terms of profit peak at 8.5 weeks. 8.5, let's say to 9 weeks, just to be safe. Really, let's just say is 8 to 9 weeks so that I'm not going to make an error in estimating. So let's look at this one. When is the maximum happening in this one? This is not a graph, but I can still tell you when the maximum is going to be. This is the highest amount. It reaches about 30,000 and some change. And that occurs when? At weeks 14 and a half. So this one, the peak occurs at 14 and a half weeks, but it doesn't go quite as high. It only goes to about 30,000 or 30, a little bit over 30,000. Let's say it that way. But the thing that I'm looking for is that the peak occurs. We know this one. We don't have to estimate at 14 and a half weeks. So let's look at these two maximum choices and see what comparison we can make. It will take the newer book longer to reach its maximum potential weekly profit than the older book. Well, that is saying that 14.25 for the newer book is greater than 8.5 for the older book. That's a true statement. So this could be my answer, but let's keep going. The newer book's maximum potential profit, 30.25 thousand, is greater than the older book's maximum potential profit. That is a false statement, so I can eliminate that answer. That is not the answer we're looking for. So I like D, but we have three other choices that we need to look at. Okay, the newer book will make a profit for twice as long as the older book. Well, the older book was 8.5. That's when it peaked. So twice that will be 17. The newer book didn't make it to 17. It started that decline after 14 and a half weeks. It started going back down. So this is a false statement. The older book will start making a profit after the newer book. Well, the older book starts at 8.5 weeks. So we're saying that 8.5 is more than 14.5. That is a false statement. The newer book will make more of a profit during week 11 than the older book. Well, the newer book at week 11 is going to be $18,000. The older book at week 11, let's draw it in here so we can see that's going to be about right here. And that point is about 37,000. So on this one, the older book at week 11 is making 37,000. That is not a true statement. This is saying 18 is more than 37. So this is also a false statement. So D is the answer. And since I knew what maximum meant, that was going to help me find that answer. If I had to guess even at that point, I could have told you that number 17 is D. So it looks like numbers 16 and 17 are D. And I believe that brings us to the end of this review. But let me go back and see. Oh, I am on the end because I'm actually working on the review. And that's the end of it. We do not have any more pages to do. So we have finished chapter 6 on functions. I hope that you have found it useful. It is a very hard chapter. So if you feel like you're struggling a little, I think that's pretty normal. It's a tough chapter. But I encourage you to reach out to your instructor if you need help. And I will see you sometime in another course. Have a good day. Bye-bye.